Hello, everyone. How are you? Hope you're having a great day. Let me know if you are joining me. I see some people are watching on Facebook. I see we have some people on Zoom. If you could comment in the chat box or below the Facebook Live and just let me know where you're joining me from today. It's great to see everyone. My name is Brandi Murphy. I'm the Director of Training and Field Development for nutraMetrix. And what we're going to be talking about today is utilizing sometimes the most underutilized space in an office, and that is the waiting or reception area. So I wanted to ask you, if you are a health professional or a staff member who's implementing nutraMetrix in your practice, when was the last time that you took a look at the waiting area in your office, the reception area, from the eyes or perspective of a patient? What are your patients seeing when they walk in the door, and how is that space being utilized? Is it being maximized to its full potential, or is it just a place where people sit and wait for their appointment? You know, as in my role as Director of nutraMetrix and nutraMetrix training and field development over the past, since 2007, I've traveled all around the country and I've visited practices of all shapes and sizes and specialties, and everything from chiropractors to optometrists to nutritionists and acupuncturists and massage therapists. I've been to all of them. And oftentimes, the waiting area leaves a lot of space to be desired. And I don't mean that from a physical space standpoint. I mean that from a how it's being used standpoint. So I want you to take yourself out of the role of your practice for a minute. And I want you to think about yourself in terms of when you are a patient and you go visit your health professionals' offices. Think about it from, what do you see when you're there? If I'm going to explain what I see the most when I go into health professionals' practices, of course, I see chairs set up. There's usually a coffee table or end tables that have some magazines out. Oftentimes, there's a TV playing in the area. And usually it's something like either the Weather Channel or the news or some sort of what I call bubblegum for the mind playing in the waiting area. And to me, that's a lost opportunity, because you could be using your waiting area, your reception area, as an education center, even if that means not doing live events in there. But if you have a waiting area or reception area, instead of having the news or the Weather Channel on the TV, why not be looping some sort of educational material on that TV that pertains to your practice, right? And I'm going to give you some examples, very specific examples of practices that I've visited in the past and how we tweaked their waiting area and their business grew dramatically because of it. So first, I'm going to tell you about a practice that I visited in Florida, and it was a practice. It was a multidisciplinary practice, and they had about 8 different practitioners. And when you walked in the door, the waiting area was beautiful. It was beautifully decorated. They had a really nice fish tank. They had beautiful art on the wall, but none of it really spoke to what the practice was about. It was just a pretty space, right? And so when I would go in as a nutraMetrix consultant to evaluate how they could potentially improve their practice, I noticed a couple of things. There was a little table on the side of the waiting area that had brochures for each of the practitioners. Now, in this particular office, each practitioner was basically an independent contractor kind of working under the same umbrella. So there were 8 different brochures there, and they all spoke to the services provided by each individual patient. To me, that was a missed opportunity, because when I'm a patient coming in, let's say that I'm a patient coming in to see a massage therapist in that clinic, or the nutritionist in that clinic, or the mental health counselor in that clinic, which all worked there. I'm coming to that practice because of that one practitioner. But when I'm there, maybe I could benefit from the services of the other practitioners too. But if I don't know, or if I don't have a reason to pick up their specific brochure, I'm missing out on an opportunity as a patient to know everything that they had to offer. So instead of having 8 separate brochures behind the counter at that little informational table in the office, I suggested that they create one flyer that was unified for the entire practice and talked about the mission of the entire practice, and then had a little blurb about each of the practitioners. And the reason for that is because now, as a patient, and I'm picking that up, I see the mission of the entire practice. I see all the different services that are provided there. And then I encourage them to create a video loop to play in that beautiful waiting room, where each individual practitioner got to introduce themselves on video and talk about what they provided, right? And talk about the different services that they offered. Because each practitioner offered a unique service, but by the patients only being marketed one service at a time, they were missing an opportunity to help those patients fully integrate the services together and get the full benefit of the practice. So I want to ask you, do you currently have something in your practice in the waiting area, clearly out front, that has all of the services that you provide explained, that introduces the people that are sitting in the waiting room to all of your providers, right? Now, I know there are some of you that are watching this that might be a single provider practice, and so you might be thinking this doesn't apply to me. Well, it still does, because you may offer multiple services and you may have patients not be aware of all of the different services that you provide. So the first thing that I'm going to ask you to think about as you walk through your practice and look at it through the eyes of a new patient is the mission and vision of your practice apparent in that waiting room? Can they see that this is a wellness-based practice? And can they see what's different about your practice than the practice down the road that might have the same specialty? Why not use that waiting area as a place to differentiate yourself from your competition? Now, I've been a patient of chiropractic for a very long time, even before I was involved with nutraMetrix on the nutraMetrix consultant side. And chiropractors have a tendency to have a lot of great education resources available in their practice. So a lot of times when you go to a new chiropractor's office, you are kind of taken through a tour of the practice, and you are shown a video of the benefits of chiropractic. And if they offer massage, they might show you a video about the benefits of massage. And I think there's a lot of different practitioners that could take that same theme and implement it into what they do, and it would help them grow their practice. Think about all the different services that you provide. Are your patients aware of all of them? So think about that from the perspective of when you walk through your waiting area, what do they see? Should it be pretty and welcoming and warm and receptive? Yes, it should. But should it also talk about what your patients can expect from you? Like, can they meet the practitioners on a screen or a video there? Do you have a TV that's just playing bubblegum for the mind, or is that TV talking about services and wellness options and education? You know, most of the patients are going to bring their own one of these with them when they come into a waiting room, and they may be sitting there and they may be answering emails, but they're still going to be aware of what's going on. And so why not use that space to help educate them on wellness topics? Don't just think about it in terms of nutraMetrix. That's not my intention here. Although you can talk about your nutraMetrix program and services that you offer through nutraMetrix, or you can have products featured, but more importantly from the beginning, think about it in terms of, does your waiting area represent the mission and vision you have for your practice? Does it introduce the patients to the practitioners who work in that office and the services that they provide? First and foremost, all of that should be there in all of your offices. You should have literature that talks about the services you provide. You should have videos playing that talk about the services you provide. Even if those videos are PowerPoints that are automated that don't have audio associated with them, if you don't want to hear the audio all day long, there could still be scrolling PowerPoints playing on the TV that list the services and the benefits of the services that you provide. In between those PowerPoints, maybe you want to have a few video commercials. And what do I mean by that? If you look at our patient-facing nutraMetrix YouTube channel, so if you go to YouTube and search for official nutraMetrix, you're going to see that we offer a variety of patient education videos that could be interspersed into the wellness topics that you have on your waiting room TV, your education center TV. It shouldn't just be a place where people are sitting there to pass the time. They should be being educated from the time they walk into the office. So maybe you're going to create a custom playlist to play in your TV that talks about the benefits of your specialty, and then a service that you provide. And then maybe you follow that up with a small commercial for a nutraMetrix product that you provide. And we have those on the nutraMetrix YouTube channel. Now, there's a ton of free resources out on the internet that are YouTube downloaders that you can download the videos from the YouTube channel and put them on a drive that you can play on your smart TV or burn them to a DVD if you have that in your waiting area. But we do also sell through nutraMetrix a USB drive that has all of these videos preloaded on them. So if you just go into your back office and you type in nutraMetrix USB, you will get in your search results a video for, a search result for the USB video file that has links to all of those videos that could be played. Now, I'm not going to encourage you, even though I want to help you increase your sales of nutraMetrix, what I don't encourage is for every video on the loop to be product related, where the patient feels like they're just watching one commercial after another commercial, after another commercial, after another commercial, because that doesn't feel good. It feels like you're being sold to when that happens. Like, what do you do when you're watching TV if you still watch regular TV and commercials come up? And we watch mostly streaming TV so we can avoid the commercials, but most people get up and walk away when they feel like there's a ton of commercials coming up. But if the information that's being shared is educational in nature and is relevant to the patient, talking about the practitioner, getting tips from the practitioner, talking about the services that are available in that practice, the odds are the patient are going to engage with that information more, and then they may even bring it up during their patient visit and ask questions about it, okay? So a couple of other resources that I want to share with you is we do also have a lot of PowerPoint presentations available on downloads that could be used as part of these ongoing kind of automatic PowerPoints. You can just create a video of the automatic PowerPoints, even record it on Zoom if you want to, and have that play on your TV. You could have the practitioners presenting those PowerPoints in their own voice, so it's a familiar voice, educating them on health and wellness topics. We have on TLSslim.com, which every nutraMetrix health professional gets a TLS Slim website. It's attached to their nutraMetrix.com website as well. And there are 12 weeks of video curriculum built into that. That type of information is useful to share in the waiting area. So again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to ask you, when you're finished watching this video, the next time you go into your practice, as you walk through the front door into your reception area or your waiting area, take a look at it from the perspective of somebody walking in for the very first time. What do you see? What is your first impression? Is it warm and welcoming and inviting? Does it reflect the mission and the vision of the practice? Is there information there for the patient to learn more about the products and the practitioners and the services that are provided in that office? Are there materials that they could take with them? For example, maybe they're very impressed when they leave your practice and they're thinking about somebody that they might refer to the practice as well. Do you have an overview of the products and services and solutions that your practice provides? Not just nutraMetrix, but the practice itself that provides, that they could hand to their family member to introduce them to your practice for you, right? So these are some of the things that you want to have out. Then take a look at what's on your end tables and coffee tables. What types of magazines do you have out there? Do you have the typical Newsweek and Time and Better Homes and Garden that I see in most practices? Or do you have materials out for them to read that are wellness focused, health related magazines, wellness related, lifestyle related magazines? Are you practicing what you're preaching, where if you're preaching a wellness lifestyle to them, or maybe a mindfulness lifestyle, a healthy living lifestyle to them, are those the types of materials that are out in your practice? Because guys, think about this, and I joke about this all the time. If you've seen me do a nutraMetrix 101 or 201, or you've been to a nutraMetrix consultant training, one of the things that I talk about when I go through a typical practice setup, not a nutraMetrix practice setup, but a typical practice setup. Pretty much everybody has experienced this as a patient. They walk into a waiting room, they sign in at the check-in desk, they're given a clipboard and asked to check to make sure that their demographic information and insurance information is the same. Then they sit down and they fill out that clipboard. And when they fill out that clipboard, usually CNN or Fox News or whatever news station is on, or Judge Judy's on, or divorce court's on, and patients are sitting there, they're already stressed because they're coming from work. Usually they sat in traffic to get there. So they're already stressed. And then there's all of this drama on the TV. And then usually after the intake paperwork's been reviewed and it's time for the patient to go back for their appointment, they're called back in. And typically in a lot of traditional medical practices at least, the first thing that happens when they walk in the door is they're taken to a scale and they're asked to step on a scale, and then their blood pressure is taken. And blood pressure can be transient. And so if we're sitting a patient down and they're feeling pressed for time and they're reviewing their emails while they're sitting in their waiting area and they see something come in from their boss, now their blood pressure is going up, and then they step on the scale, they're probably not happy with that number, now their blood pressure went up, and now we're taking their blood pressure again before they go back into the office. And maybe we want to focus on not creating an environment where we're raising their blood pressure right before we take it. Like, let's turn off the TV of all the bubble gum. Let's turn off the news. Let's turn off even the Weather Channel can be stressful, because what do they focus on a lot? Big storms. There was just a big storm that passed through the East Coast yesterday. If you're in the path of the storm, that creates stress for people. So we want to have a relaxing, inviting, calm environment in the reception area. We want people to have materials that they can look at that are health related and wellness related. We want to make sure that we're taking every opportunity while the patients are in that room to introduce them to the practitioners, to edify the practitioners and talk about how amazing the practitioners are that work in that office. We're giving the practitioners an opportunity to record videos that could be playing on the waiting area that talk about the services they provide and how they can help their patients. We may intersperse some nutraMetrix commercials or product commercials or service commercials of other things that are offered in the practice in between some of those wellness talks. If the practice is offering a weight loss component in the practice, we could be having, the video on how to read food labels. We could have the video on what to do when you're stressed. There's so many different great videos that are available on that YouTube channel that could be being played, and these are already created for you. So this doesn't require a lot of work to put together a great playlist for your reception area. And then think about, where do the patients go after the reception area? And in some practices, after the reception area, they go into a treatment room where they're still sitting and waiting for a couple of minutes before their provider can come in and work with them. So what do they see in that treatment room? Does the treatment room reflect the vision and mission of the practice? Does the treatment room have materials around that are focused on healthy living? Does the treatment room maybe have a TV playing? Or could there be, I don't know, maybe you even want to have a tablet where the patients could be taking the nutraphysical while they're sitting in the treatment room. It could be part of the intake. And so you're asking them questions about their lifestyle and their dietary intake. And then when they come, when they submit the results, the practice gets the recommendations of what products might be a good fit for them. So I just wanted to take a few minutes, and I'm just going to look to see if there's any questions. I'm checking the Facebook page now. I see we have quite a few people watching with us on Facebook. Hello, Rob and Larry and Shelly. Great to see all of you. And on the regular Zoom, I'm just checking to see if there's any questions or if anybody commented anything in the chat. I hope this was helpful. Can you just comment and let me know if this is helpful for you to think about different ways of viewing your reception area or waiting area and your treatment rooms? They don't have to just be a pretty place where people wait. They can be part of the process. It can be utilized as an education center. And I want to talk to you about another practice where we made some significant changes in their business because we transformed their education center. And I know on the last video in this series that I did last week, one of the things that we talked about is if you go into our official NC support group on Facebook, in the photo albums, and I showed this in that video, which is going to be in our video series, we have a photo album of waiting room displays. So if you need options or ideas or creative inspiration on how other practices are displaying products or creating health displays, you can go into the official nutraMetrix consultant support group on Facebook, go to the photos, click on the albums, and there is a product display album there that you can look through. And some of them that you'll see there's one particular practice where they actually remodeled. They did demolition. They demolished their traditional waiting area, because what it used to be when you would walk in their door, about 10 feet in front of their door was the sliding glass frosted window that would say, initially when I started working with them, it said, do not tap on glass. So the window was always closed because the staff that sat behind the window was always busy. And patients would come in to check in and they would sign in, and then every once in a while they'd open the sliding door and they'd grab the clipboard and the patient would go back and sit back down. And it wasn't very welcoming. There was no smiling face greeting the patient. It was just this window that would slide open and slide closed. And I'm like, doctor, is that really how you want your patients? Is that the first impression you want the patients to see? It's kind of cold, right? It's kind of, there's this barrier between the staff and the patients. And is that really what you want to be representing your office? So as he thought about it, he said no. And then he looked around into his office and there's these stark blue chairs and white walls and Newsweek and Time and all of the typical magazines on the counter, but there was really nothing that talked about the practice. There was nothing that talked about the wellness goals of the patients. There was nothing that really promoted health. And so the practitioner, this is a cardiologist, thought about it a little bit different after we had that conversation. And so he actually took down the wall that had the sliding glass door and he put in this nice, beautiful glass desk, and he had this beautiful staff member with a warm, smiling face that would greet people when they would open the door. It wasn't that, like, she was still busy, don't get me wrong. She still had a lot of work to do. But what she had to do was just say hello to people. And then she would point them down. And he kind of created still a barrier so she could get her work done without a lot of distraction. But he made the barrier out of a glass fountain with plants in front of it. And then in the area where the chairs were, he created a beautiful product display and a product tasting tasting location. So it was almost like a juice bar concept, and patients could mix their own isotonics and taste it. Or if he had a staff member available, they would come out and talk about the isotonics and do a little educational workshop there. If the staff member wasn't available, there would be a video on loop to educate the patients on health topics. And they had different topics that they talked about every week, and they would record them. And then they, over time, built up this nice library of health talks that they could play in their own waiting area, that were their practitioners talking about health talks in their waiting room. And by doing that, what they found is it went from being this place where patients were kind of uncomfortable during the waiting process to patients were really engaged and they wanted to hang out, and they started to develop a relationship with the patients. And then they started bringing more referrals and the business grew, right? And so I just want you to think about this, because I think way too often the reception area is a wasted opportunity to create a relationship with the patients and help to educate the patients and create more loyalty and patient compliance with the patients. And so my objective of today's talk is just to get you thinking about that. How can we better utilize all the space in the practice so that we can make sure that the patients are aware, front and center, what is the vision and mission of this practice? And if it's wellness focused, every interaction in that practice should point to wellness or lifestyle interventions. And so from the magazines and the books that are out for them to look at to what's playing on the TV, it's not just there for bubblegum for the mind. It is an opportunity to be educating people. Again, hope this was helpful for you. I see some comments saying that people like these. We're going to be doing more topics like this for our health professional learning management system. And make sure that you join the Facebook groups, because you can look at the photo albums that we have there. Check out our YouTube channel. We have a lot of great resources that you can use that are pre-recorded for you. And then we also have on download some educational PowerPoints that can be used, or the TLS Slim website for additional information. With that, I'm going to end the session for today. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you on another broadcast. Have a wonderful day, everyone.